Lord Denning, a former judge in the House of Lords, in one of his judgments asked, is a man entitled to be paid, entitled to his wages for his work when he and others is doing his best to make that work useless? Surely not. Wages are to be paid for services rendered, not for producing deliberate chaos. Is that what our honorable lawmakers are doing? Producing deliberate chaos. Are our lawmakers above the law, or should they follow a certain norm? Joining me on India First, Charan Singh Sapra represents the Congress party. The BJP chose not to be a part of this discussion. In a moment, we hope to be joined by Chakshu Roy, Head Legislative and Civic Engagements of the PRS Legislative Research. Professor Anand Ranganathan is a very well-respected political analyst, joins us on this show, as the senior journalist Aarti Jairath. Charan Singh Sapra, let's begin with politics. Should no work, no pay actually be implemented? Look at the costs, sir. 1.5 crore per hour for Lok Sabha to function. 1.1 crore for Rajya Sabha, and these are older figures, and less than 31% work output. Shouldn't this embarrass our honorable lawmakers, sir?
Gaurav, I acknowledge the concern of the Member Parliament, Mr. Umesh Patel. And truly, he said that taxpayers' money should not be wasted. Parliament is, a temple of democracy where largely there should be a debate, discussion, dissent, and decision-making. But unfortunately, the government over here, who is largely responsible to conduct a parliament session, they have a very restricted mind and they don't want difficult questions. They treat dissent as anti-national and treason also. Government herself was not interested in continuing with this session. They just wanted to bulldoze the issues. However, the opposition parties, they had their own issues, which was earlier discussed in the Business Advisory Committee also. We wanted to discuss the Jammu Kashmir statehood, the women atrocities, the SIR. Then 2 days were, they went in the sudden resignation of Mr. Jagdeep Dhankar. Before that, at least 5 days were, just wasted by the government when the opposition was demanding a discussion on Operation Sindoor. So there are so many things which have happened in this session and in earlier session also. Let me remind you that government never wanted to discuss on Manipur. They literally wasted the entire session not discussing anything on Manipur, then electoral bonds, then even the NEET issue. They never wanted to discuss these issues.
Okay.
The government should be sincere. They have the larger responsibility to run the government. Opposition will coordinate with them. But when the government doesn't want to come into
the opposition coordinating with the government? You're saying that the government doesn't want the House to function. Professor Anand Ranganathan, MPs had themselves decided 120 hours for discussion. Output, mere 37 hours in Lok Sabha, slightly better, 41 hours and 15 minutes in Rajya Sabha. So the pass percentage, and you're a professor, you tell me, if one of your wards scored 31% marks or 38% marks, would you promote them to the next class? Would you think that they're performing?
Good evening, Gaurav, and good evening to my fellow panelists. पहली बात तो आप ये मिस्टर उमेश पटेल का डीएनए टेस्ट कराओ, ये इंडियन ही है क्या? First things first. No, but excellent parliamentarians like Mr. Umesh Patel are the exception, not the norm, Gaurav. Because the sad fact is, we are cursed with electing either louts or Luddites. I'm afraid I have a different take to what Mr. Patel has said. Because docking the salary isn't going to cut it. These guys earn 1 million times more than what their official salaries are. It's like a water off a duck's back. A better solution is, every time an MP or an MLA disrupts the House, his term should be truncated by 4 months. 3 disruptions and he will have 1 year less to loot his constituency. What better way to turn a delinquent into eloquent? Budget, monsoon, winter. Gaurav, every parliamentary or assembly session is the same old story. Every year, every term. No one is interested in finding a solution. And this cuts across party lines, across legislative assembly, state or central. I mean, of course, what is happening in the parliament is shameful and the opposition parties are to be blamed for it. But are you telling me that the BJP hasn't indulged in the same? What doesn't even have to go back to the UPA era to find instances of the BJP creating ruckus, indulging in vandalism, forcing adjournment?
But sir, you're blaming the opposition. Charan Singh Sapra very rightly said it's the responsibility of the government to ensure the House functions. The government should bring the opposition on board. Isn't the government failing in its responsibility? quickly, before I bring in Aarti Jairath, quickly respond to this point, sir, that the government has to ensure the House functions.
But how can the government ensure if the other person wants to play the delinquent? If they rush to the well of the house and exit the house, the government cannot physically prevent them from leaving the house. That's why I say these docking the salary isn't going to work, Gaurav. You have to truncate their term. That will put the heebie-jeebies in them.
Okay, Aarti Jairath, when Lok Sabha sits only for 37 hours of the planned 120 hours, does it reflect failure of the government, or does it show an attitude of the opposition? Is it failure of floor management and outreach? In your appreciation, why are we going so wrong in terms of not getting the kind of output from our parliament that we, a nation of 140 crore Indians, deserve?
Gaurav, good evening to you. Thank you for having me on the panel. But I just want to say that, Parliament is a reflection of the state of our politics. The fault lies not in Parliament. The fault lies in our politics, which has become increasingly confrontational, with no space at all for discussion, dissent, debate, or anything. And that is playing out in Parliament, which, after all, is the nerve center of democracy. So, it's all very well to criticize parliamentarians, criticize Parliament, say you're not doing enough work, and so on and so forth. But until we rectify, look at the kind of speeches that are given at election rallies. They are so confrontational. They are so full of vitriol and hate from both sides, whether it's the opposition or it's the ruling party. So I'm not blaming one or the other. I'm saying both are equally responsible. If that's going to be the state of your politics, obviously it's going to play out in disruptions in Parliament, and there's going to be an impasse every day. Those old days when parliamentarians, used to meet each other informally. And in fact, Central Hall was one of those places where parliamentarians could meet informally. And a lot of things were sorted out in Central Hall, some sort of compromises were reached and so on. That Central Hall has completely vanished in the new Parliament. So there is no place at all for MPs to meet informally, to have a chat, to become friends, rather than, opponents, which is what they are in Parliament today. So,
but aren't they opponents only in Parliament or during election rallies? Because we see them partying together, we see them at each other's weddings, and that's very nice. At their family weddings, everyone comes together, and all that is wonderful. All that is wonderful. But at least in the interest of the nation.
Gaurav, I have seen, for instance, weddings, of BJP leaders' children. There are no Congress people. Or of Congress leaders' children, and there are no BJP people. This was never like that. Always,
but there are so many pictures of Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
This is the new thing that has crept in.
I don't want to name individual MPs.
It's become just so bitter.
A certain opposition leader. I don't want to take names per se, Anand Ranganathan, but ma'am, I want you to weigh in on that also. A certain opposition leader who'd really campaigned extensively against the Prime Minister when he was Chief Minister of Gujarat in more ways than one. When somebody in his family got married, the Prime Minister was there. Another leader from Bihar, when there was a wedding in the family, leaders were there. So privately they're there. Publicly, they're virtually at war. But, the point Anand Ranganathan made. Okay, Anand, you wanted to come in on this point, and then I want to bring Aarti Jairath on the point you made, and Charan Singh Sapra also. Respond, Anand.
No, I don't think Aarti ji is quite correct about the acrimony between Congress and the BJP away from the Parliament, because half the Congress guys have joined the BJP. No, but to be serious, the fact of the matter is, you saw during the high tea sessions, in fact, the late Sitaram Yechuri ji, you have the communists fighting the BJP on the social media. And there they were having a hearty laugh, showing, their 36 teeth. So the fact of the matter is, there is camaraderie between politicians cutting across. You just saw in the aftermath of Operation Sindoor, how the bunch of parliamentarians cutting across party lines went away to various countries to exhibit.
Thank God for that. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So there is camaraderie. It's only in the Parliament that they believe they have to behave like delinquents. And I'm afraid docking the salary, as I said, is not a solution. You have to hit them where it hurts. Curtail their terms.
Okay, Charan Singh Sapra, would that work if MPs disrupt Parliament, start curtailing their term?
See, I feel who is going to decide that which party is at fault, whether the ruling party is at fault or whether the opposition party is at fault. Basically, then we have to decide the structure. What is going to be the format of this decision? As Madam Aarti Jairat was talking, it just reminded me of what is happening in Parliament nowadays. The kind of narrative or the kind of level to which the Parliament discussions have gone. It reminds me of Ramesh Biduri, the way he criticized and what he called Danish Ali, and the way the Prime Minister himself, he told Renuka Chaudhary Supurnakha, or maybe he criticized his predecessor, Dr. Manmohan Singh, by saying that he wears a raincoat while having a bath. This is the kind of level to which Bharatiya Janata Party and Narendra Modi himself has got the parliament discussion to. That's why this issue is coming, and that's why the authoritarian nature of Bharatiya Janata Party, that is basically distorting and disturbing the entire process of parliament, the entire discussion of the parliament.
But okay, Professor Anand Ranganathan is smiling because doesn't that cut both ways, Professor Ranganathan?
No, that is what I meant. If the BJP rightly so has used slurs and abuses, then it is not a one-way street. And, the good gentleman from the Congress knows it. I mean, there have been ample instances. The point is the good independent MP has brought a solution. We must welcome it. But I'm afraid it's not going to cut it. That is what I'm saying. If we really want to tackle seriously, then we have to hit them where it hurts.
Aarti Jairat, you think that will work? You start not just docking their salary, but start curtailing their term. And there is a privilege, there's a committee. Let that committee decide.
I think Anand Ranganathan really needs to attend Parliament a little bit, and maybe then he'll get some idea of how Parliament functions. He's sitting in a library and he's a professor. He has no idea what happens in Parliament. I've covered Parliament for 25 years now, so I've seen how the dynamics operate. I just want to say a few things. Firstly, I think his example of Operation Sindoor is completely not the right example to give at this point of time. Operation Sindoor was a very unusual, time when the nation was under threat. And I think everybody responded unitedly to a threat to our national integrity and our nationalism.
Absolutely.
And I think that's absolutely fine. And that is why, cutting across party lines, people went abroad to carry that message. So I don't think that's the same thing, right? But, I think what we need to understand is that there is a bitterness and a hatred that has crept into our politics, which I have not seen over the last many, many years in my decades as a political journalist. I have not seen, I remember in Parliament, even when they were political opponents, but, when they spoke, they referred to each other, they spoke to each other with respect. Chandrasekhar would call Vajpayee Gurudev, although they were diametrically opposite in their political beliefs. That kind of respect and, kind of acceptance is missing today. There is something wrong in our politics. And that is why Parliament has become dysfunctional. And, you can dock anybody's salary or anything. Firstly, I don't think you can put a price on democracy. I don't think you can say that I will cut somebody's salary or I will cut somebody's term. How do you put a price on democracy? Yes, we're paying very heavily for our democracy. But at the end of the day, I think we need to understand that democracy is the only system that works in India. And we need to get our politics back on course. Maybe then Parliament will start functioning.
Okay, Professor Anand Ranganathan wants to come in before I bring in Charan Singh Sapra. Go on, Professor. Make your point, sir.
Vandalism, ruckus, and anarchy is not democracy. Be that as it may, I think Ms. Jairat makes a valid point. In fact, if you only have to look at the discussions that happened during the Indus Water Treaty when it was signed, most of the criticism, Gaurav, of Jawaharlal Nehru were by the congressmen. It is incredible. In today's day and age, one would be hard put to find any dissent from within the party's rank, either BJP or Congress. So, of course, she's right. We have lost out, and I think that's a great point. But we need to regain that.
Yes.
Okay, and Charan Singh Sapra.
I think the question is how.
Okay, and in your view, how? Before I bring in Charan Singh Sapra once again, because it's a very interesting debate. I don't want to break a chain of thought. Go ahead, ma'am.
Me? No, I am at a loss on how to break this, this chain, because this is why our parliament is so dysfunctional today, because our politics has become so bitter.
Okay.
How do we
Charan Singh
bring it
Sapra,
back?
when in power,
How do we bring it back where people can call each other Gurudev, even though they are on different sides of the political spectrum?
okay, when in power, Dr. Manmohan Singh said disruption by parliament by the opposition was actually a grave violation of the norms of parliamentary office. Then former finance minister of India, P. Chidambaram, he said every day that passes without parliament meeting and transacting business in a day adds a black spot for democracy. Now, and when the BJP was in opposition, they'd say even protesting is a form of parliamentary democracy. Nobody's practicing what they're preaching, sir. How does that change?
I feel the current discourse where there's a lot of bitterness, which we see in the discussion itself, this bitterness has to reduce, and the larger role should be played by the ruling party, the speaker, and the chairman. We have thousands of instances of the earlier parliament sessions whereby the speaker has taken the initiative to call all the leaders of the opposition parties to have discussion. Why to go far away? Even in this discussion of Operation Sindoor, did the speaker did he not call all the leaders of opposition parties and discuss, and they mutually decided on a date when the discussion should start? So it largely depends on the ruling party, the speaker and the
Okay.
chairman, how they want to continue the discourse. If the
But
speaker is
doesn't that
under
happen
continuous
each time?
one moment, let me complete. If the speaker or the chairman is always under the pressure from the bosses, like we saw the case of Jagdeep Dhankar when he accepted a move from the opposition leaders, what happened to him? He had to resign within a couple of hours. The ministers attended his 12:30 meeting of BSc, but they did not attend the 4:30 meeting, and finally 7:30 he had to resign. So this kind of pressure, which is created by their leaders, by their bosses, it doesn't allow the parliamentary system to work. The chairman
Okay.
could not work as per his desire. Similarly, it happens with the speaker. They are under continuous pressure from the prime minister or whatever it is to be said.
Okay. Professor Anand Ranganathan disagrees with you and wants to come in. Go on, sir.
No, I keep it very simple. Look, we've had this enchanting, wonderful debate where you are the speaker. Now, supposing one of us created ruckus and left and abused and everything, would you call that person again?
The fact remains, it was
No,
decided whether it's the government, treasury benches or the opposition benches, they sat together and decided that they will work 140 hours. They will devote 140 hours, but then they, left in 37 hours. So it's, well and fine, and you must blame the speaker and whoever else, it's their right of the opposition. But as a taxpayer, my question is, if everyone has decided you will work for 140 hours, why haven't you worked for 140 hours? That's the question to the government. That's the question to the opposition, because it's your money and mine, Aarti Jairath and Professor Ranganathan, that's just going down the drain. And can we afford it? We'd rather spend that money on education or infrastructure and national security and defense, which we are unable to do because it's going in parliament and it's going down the drain. But Aarti Jairath, so take for example, the special intensive revision at the SIR of voter rolls. It's an absolutely major issue. The opposition must raise it and raise it in all its forms that they want to. But is that the only issue confronting the nation today? And in your view, should there be time allocated for it? That you discuss this time, but let other work also happen, or that's a pipe dream, that's utopia, that will never happen.
So, Gaurav, there are two aspects to Parliament. One is the legislative business, which obviously is the primary task, passing the budget, laws that have to be made, and so on. We're seeing bills being passed, we're seeing the budget being passed. That kind of legislative work is continuing. The other
Without
part
debate,
other,
in some instances, if I may, in less than 1 hour of debate, bills are being
I know.
passed. Is
And
that
that's
good
the
for our
unfortunate
country?
that's the unfortunate thing, that there is no debate. But still, it's not that laws are not being made. Laws are being made, the budget is being passed. So the legislative part of the business is happening. It is the political part of parliament where you have discussions on current political issues, burning issues of the day. That is where the problem is arising, which is not happening, that you're not being able to debate the right issues. But this is not just today. Gaurav, can I please go back to 1995 I think it was, or 1994 or something. I'm not quite sure. I mean, sorry, my memory is failing me. When Sukram, who was the Minister of Telecom in the Narasimha Rao
Telecommunication.
government,
Yes.
his house was raided and they found
Yes.
2 crores of rupees in cash
bundles
in
in-
his
yep.
pillowcases and so on and so forth.
Yes.
The winter session that year did not
Washed
even
out.
1 minute did Parliament meet for the
Yes.
entire winter session. That was actually the start of disruption of Parliament, when you just blocked an entire session because of this. Now it's a big issue, of course, that the cash has been found in the minister's office. But should there not have been a discussion on this? Should it not
Okay.
have figured in the House in the form of a debate and discussion? The government of the day blocked the discussion. The opposition, which was the BJP, resorted to complete disruption and blocked all sitting of both houses of parliament. So it started then. And it's not
So
something
should it
new.
remain
We're
a
just
norm
seeing
over
get worse and
decades?
worse and worse.
Yes. Yes. And
know?
that's the unfortunate part.
And that's the unfortunate thing. So we
Yes.
need to
Charan
bring
Singh
some
Sapra.
sanity back. We need to bring some sanity back to our politics. And I think our politicians must understand that you cannot continue in this climate of hate and disruptions, because we all have to work together for the country. And yes, SIR
Absolutely.
is an
Put India first.
important issue.
SIR is an issue, but is SIR the only issue
It's
or the
not.
government
There
that's
are-
blocking it? Yes, discuss if it can be, if it's in courts of law. There has to be a forward movement some way or the other. But Charan Singh Sapra, let me give you the example of the United Kingdom, for example. Salaries have been withheld during suspension. Now, they say it's rare but effective, and it ensures smoother legislative business. Let me give you the example of South Africa. In their National Assembly, rules permit docking of salaries of members of their parliament for disruptions. They say it's aimed at preventing debates from being replaced with chaos. What we see here is chaos and not debates, sir.
See, number one, Gaurav, this again has to be decided by the parliament itself. Now, other example which I would like to give, you just mentioned about SIR. Why there should be no discussion in parliament on SIR? Even if there is a case in the court where we did not discuss the EVM issue or what in parliament, we discussed CVC also. So SIR could have been discussed, but the government never wanted to face the difficult question. They felt that they will get exposed. The way they have been getting exposed on the streets, they would have got exposed in the parliament. And they could not have erased that history which will happen in the parliament. So this government gets scared, and this government has
Sir,
an
a member
authoritarian
of
nature.
parliament, I put that question to Umesh Bhai Patel. He's a member of parliament. He's sitting in parliament. He says once the courts have weighed in, I'm not saying this, he's saying it, once courts have weighed in,
Whatever.
you continue to disrupt. No, it's not whatever. Once
No,
courts have
government-
weighed in, you
government could have
continue to
allotted
disrupt
specific
parliament on the
time.
same issue. But Professor Anand Ranganathan,
Government could
Professor
have allotted
Ranganathan,
specific time, maybe 4
Okay.
hours or 3 hours or maybe lesser than that. But they should
Professor
have decided the
Ranganathan,
time on it.
the Tamil Nadu Assembly, they said the privilege committee, when it suspended MLAs for 6 months, denying them salaries and allowance, the Madras High Court actually upheld that decision, and they ruled that one, due procedure was followed, withholding salaries was valid, their rationale, and you must hear this rationale, that suspension of salaries is way more effective and a stronger deterrent than just naming or suspending a member. The current presiding officers, they have limited powers, and this hinders the functioning of parliament. So it also violates, as Umesh Patel just told us a short while back, it violates their right to discharge their constitutional duty to their voters. Docking salaries, should that be an important first step, and perhaps debate what you are suggesting?
No, look, the bottom line is we are paying for a service, and that service is not being given to us. So the people who are not doing it, they need to be punished. It's as simple as that. Otherwise, you get it from private means. Now, a couple of things, even if my suggestion of curtailing the term is not acceptable, we have a perfectly bona fide solution in our midst. The way court proceedings are carried out. Can you imagine the ruckus being inside a court? Unthinkable. Half the court would be put in jail. Why does that happen? Why are the court proceedings held accordingly to the strictures of the court, and everyone is so polite and there is semblance of, bonhomie there? because
Contempt
they
of court.
trust the judge. Now, out
Yes.
here, I think time has come to make independent MPs like Mr. Patel the speaker. Maybe that will have a better proceedings of parliament.
Okay. Aarti Jarath has a big smile on her face because she clearly knows after having covered parliament for close to 3 decades, no way will an independent party, if a government has its
No
numbers,
way.
will it let an independent become the speaker?
No way, Gaurav. Yeah, absolutely right. There's no way it can be done. And, as I said, I will circle back to politics. We need to bring some sense back into our politics. How that is going to happen, I don't know. Maybe the voters need to speak, not us on TV debates, not the courts, not, not people like that, but the voters need to speak. If the voters start making their parliamentarians accountable, parliamentarians will learn. And I think that's really where we need to go. We need to tell voters that, look, make your parliamentarians accountable, make them report to you, make them do their work in parliament, raise your issues in parliament. And if they don't do it, then don't vote for them next time. And I think that is where we need to begin, because that's the only
Okay.
message that parliamentarians will understand if they don't get elected the next time around.
When 30% or 38% work happens, do keep in mind 121 crore rupees of the taxpayers' money has just gone down the drain in just one session. That's the way. You and I, the common people of this country, are losing out. And perhaps that's the reason why we must demand accountability from our leaders. To all my guests, many thanks for joining me. Let's hope in our temple of democracy, it's laws that are made, legislative business that is carried out, keeping India first, national interests supreme.